So, hey guys, thanks for joining us today to tell us about your game that you've made in Crayta. Before we take a look at that though, can you tell us a little bit about yourselves and your history in game making?
Yeah, for sure. Hi, my name is Fernando Melo. I'm the founder at a new studio called Doubleclick Games here in Edmonton, Canada. I've been in the games industry for over 20 years. And most recently, before starting this, I was a producer at BioWare working on Dragon Age and Mass Effect franchises.
Hi, yeah, I'm Dean Roskell. I'm also a founder for a different company, Prime VR. I met Fernando at BioWare. We both left there and started our own studios up, but we collaborated together to work on this Crayta project.
Great. And tell us a little bit about the game that you've made for Crayta and what's it about.
Yeah, so Huddle For Warmth is the game that we made for Crayta, and I guess you could best describe it as a collaborative survival light game. The objective of the game is you go out into the world, you collect resources, you bring them back to camp, and you try not to freeze along the way. So basically, while you're out there exploring this sprawling winter environment, there's mountains and caves, and there's underwater locations and stuff. You're constantly losing temperature, kind of like your health. And then, true to its name, you huddle or you stay near other players to generate heat. And that lets you go out and explore more rewarding locations further away from camp.
So what inspired you to come up with that idea?
The idea that came to us, we actually got a kind of a breakdown pitch from sort of creative to ask about the sort of parameters for the game. Something that was multiplayer, but also wouldn't hinder single players from enjoying it. So trying to avoid things like having team-based games where possible. So we looked at that kind of challenge there of the 1 to 30 players, and we're trying to figure out a game that would support that, because typically you have multiplayer experiences or single player experiences. So we had this kind of brainstorming session about a novel approach for a game where we came up with this idea that you're surviving against the environment, and the more players that you can get, the easier the experience it can be. So it was more seen as a player versus environment.
So what are you most pleased with and how the final game turned out?
Well, there's quite a lot, actually. For me, anyways. It was a relatively short development time. But one of the things that I love about where we managed to get it to is just the exploration of the environment. There's so much really interesting nooks and crannies to find. And then the other part that was super rewarding is just watching in our playtest sessions this kind of hilarious mix of group collaboration. So seeing players coming together to kind of tackle these harder resource locations and trying to have these kind of group huddles across the map, traversing across the map and going up mountains and things like that was actually really just a lot of fun to watch and observe players doing that.
Yeah, I can add some to that as well. I mean, we've captured the name Huddle For Warmth. It symbolizes the sort of main act you've got to do, and the kind of novel feature of the game where players have to stand close together to share their warmth to survive in this harsh environment. And we've kind of created a game that has relatively few rules. With a short development time, we didn't want to get overly complex about the amount of code that we had to create for the game and deal with all the ramifications of bugs and things like that.
So what were your first impressions of Crayta when you first started having a play with it?
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. Like the first time that we got into it, it really felt like this giant game development toy box had been opened up. So having worked on lots of games over the years, and usually you end up having to build some sort of foundational technology just to get up and running. And it was amazing to just be able to dive in and start to already realize that vision and see what was possible given everything that was there already.
It was a very familiar environment straight away. And what we were able to do is actually start ideating some thoughts into game designs and then testing those assumptions out almost instantly using the available content that was given to us. So the environment there, like the ice environment, so we could make a desert environment, all those features and themes were built into Crayta to allow us to start quickly playing through with ideas and visualizing what we're trying to think of.
Just to add to that, I think in short, like, I don't think there's any way that we would have been able to do what we did in the time that we had if it wasn't for what Crayta provided out of the box. And I think also the ability for us to collaborate together in world, in the map, and actually be on there together and see each other building things and being able to riff off of one another as we're working on the game was really, really amazing to be able to experience that.
So big thanks to Fernando and Dean for introducing us to Huddle for Warmth. You'll be able to play that as soon as Crayta launches later in the year. In the meantime, though, make sure you check out the rest of our Indie Creator Showcase videos to learn more about some of the other titles that are coming up. And remember to subscribe to the channel to stay updated with all the other Crayta news.